Go live to my colleague and editorial contributor, Karyn Maughan, for analysis on the former president's testimony. Afternoon to you, Karyn, and thank you so much for joining us. Karyn, I'm quite interested, I guess, as proceedings started earlier on today, in some of the tensions between the two legal teams here. Advocate Moses Kakane, I guess, indicating some of his displeasure with the intention of Advocate Pretorius to continue cross-questioning the former president around one Themba Maseko.
Basically, what we've seen today is a continuation of these ongoing tensions that have been happening with the inquiry. Fortunately, I've had to take my earpiece out because there's such a bad echo. But what has happened continuously throughout this process is that the former president's lawyers have raised this issue that he is being treated as an accused criminal and not as a witness. So their conjecture is that Paul Pretorius cannot cross-examine him. He can't ask probing questions. He must simply accept that when he provides an answer, that answer is his answer. And they were also, Moses Kakane today, expressing unhappiness over the fact that they sought to question him over the appointment process that led to the subsequent reappointment of Siyabonga Gama, the very controversial CEO of Transnet, who was actually fired prior to his subsequent reappointment in 2011. Their conjecture essentially that asking him about the recommendations or the board processes that went into, the recommendation that Sipho Maseko, in fact, be put into that position simply wasn't fair because, there was documentary evidence available that the inquiry could refer to, and that asking Zuma to traverse into that territory was simply not applicable, given that it wasn't necessarily something that he would have had direct knowledge of.
Karyn, when we consider, I guess, that particular testimony of Barbara Hogan, especially as it relates to the appointment of the CEO at Transnet, I'm quite interested in the Deputy Chief Justice there, I guess, pausing the witness there for a second and saying, look, let's be clear here, let's make a distinction between you saying you don't recall vis-a-vis you saying actually that would not have happened and you actually saying I didn't do that.
Well, the thing about the appointment of Siyabonga Gama, or the contention around his appointment, was really that Transnet became one of the heartlands of alleged state capture corruption. We've heard evidence from some of the Transnet or current and former Transnet officials around the acquisition of locomotives from South China Rail, which allegedly, according to the Gupta leaks, may have resulted in Gupta family associates receiving kickbacks in the region of 5.3 billion rands. Now, what was fascinating about today was that Barbara Hogan came forth and said that, former President Jacob Zuma had put her under direct pressure to ensure the appointment of Siyabonga Gama to that position. Remember Pravin Gordhan in 2009 being put forward as the forerunner for that post, but later, because he was chosen or handpicked by Zuma to be his finance minister, really coming off the table and no longer being available. And Jacob Zuma denying that vociferously, saying that it would simply not have been procedural for him to get involved on that level, to push for someone who he said was facing charges to be put in that position, and almost appeared shocked that there would be a conjecture that he would have done what Hogan is alleging him to do. That being said, of course, the evidence on the table is that the board's recommendations that Sipho Maseko, a highly regarded businessman who subsequently, I think, became the CEO of Telkom and has been doing incredibly well in that position, was not appointed to the position, despite the board really strongly recommending him for that post, and that Siyabonga Gama, subsequent to being fired in 2010 because of three very serious findings made against him in relation to procurement irregularities, then following Hogan being fired, was put back in that position. And then we see, of course, these allegations that Gupta associates scored these massive kickbacks with regard to the locomotive deals. So President Zuma's alleged involvement or push for Gama to be put in that position may be very central to the Commission's examination of what exactly happened at Transnet and whether the former president at the time may have inappropriately sought to intervene in the appointment of Siyabonga Gama.
Karyn, thank you so much for your time there, and we'll certainly catch up with Karyn Maughan, who's reporting to us from Parktown there at the State Capture Commission of Inquiry.